Okay, I think we're live, people.
I think we're live. Happy Friday.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, it's Friday.
yeah. So Sonia, how you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing. It's been quite a week. This has
Yeah,
been like a week that so many emotions, from protests really starting last Friday to, this Friday and everything in between. It's a, um it's quite a time. It's quite a time to be alive and to be witnessing so much passion, so much energy, and so you know how I do.
yeah.
By the
Well,
way, I am
introduce yourself
Sonia
to the people
Booker.
and tell the people who you are
As I
as
said, you know
we
how
get
I do. I can
started.
get the rolling. By the way, I am Sonia Booker, and
We
I'm your co-host
really
for
leave
the
it up to
new
you
Code of
professionals, sis.
Wealth and wealth builder, real estate entrepreneur, investor, entrepreneur. So just really looking to make a difference in through writing and through speaking and through a lot of things that I do around ownership and wealth building, and just the honor to be here hosting the show alongside the awesome Rick Mathis.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So my name is Rick Mathis, producer of the Black Friday film series, a series that deals with how we as African Americans value a dollar and the importance of leaving a legacy for the next generation. It's very, very, very important right now. So today's show is real estate. So we've searched high and low to find some of the best real estate experts in the country. And we have two bright minds, Dr. Mike Roberts, as well as Carrie Lampkin, who will
Yeah.
discuss with us the importance of ownership. It's own or be owned. That's where
Owned
we
or
are.
be owned is yeah.
Exactly.
not,
Exactly. That's
not a whole lot of in between.
nah. There's
Yeah.
nothing in between. So
I think we're fixing it through our ownership of businesses, real estate, and I'm excited about this discussion because I think a lot of people are tuned in. A lot of people are ready to have it. A lot of people
mhm.
are ready to have it and really recognize how the green, the money, the land, and really impacts our daily lives, and how when we don't have that in our ownership, it makes it that much more difficult. So
Okay, we're
um,
gonna bring you on in 1 second. Let me put you on hold. We're gonna bring you on in 1 second.
we're here in Atlanta, based in Atlanta, and we have some guests based out of Detroit, based out of St. Louis, but really these men are global and world renowned, in their and how they use their voices and how they share their messages. So yeah, just an honor to be amongst this today.
Yeah. So okay. So there was an occurrence that happened at the business this week uh, in regards to this rioting and looting that was going on
Hmm.
this past weekend around the country. Your business was actually a victim of that. Can
Yeah,
you actually share, a little bit with the guests of
yeah.
what happened, and also have a brief video that we want to play?
The video, the footage, yeah.
Yeah,
So I have been watching the protests that obviously started out peaceful here in the Atlanta area, and last Friday night, they took a whole different direction, and was
mm-hmm.
just kind of watching the news, going, "Wow, whoa." Then the next day, the protesting started up, and that Saturday night, things, turned real ugly real fast. And I have a business located in downtown Atlanta that was impacted, where, the rioters and looters throughout, they bust out all the windows and on the building. And just, I got a call that night, and, the news was there, so many police. And just to get that call, and you go from being on your sofa kind of watching to being, kind of thrown into the fire in a way that you didn't really see happening, or you can even imagine happening. And so you know, went and assessed the business and was just in shock that, you know, that much damage and what had been done to the business. Yeah.
So let's go back. So what exactly, like when you, so you're at home, you get the
Mhm,
call that
mhm,
your business, your building, which you own, by the
mhm,
way, has been affected by looters, has been affected by the rioters. Like what was going through your mind as you drove from your house down to the business?
you don't really know what to expect. And, you know, of course, the power of video now, you know, some people were sending me some video and stuff like that. And so, but until you get there and you take it in, and so, you know, I was just like, I was mad. It was just like a lot, you know, I was mad. I'm like, what, how my business getting this? You know, I'm already mad. I'm already, you know, just feeling the brunt of Black Lives Matter and understanding, you know, the anger, understanding the emotions behind everything. And so full well, respecting and a part of, you know, a part of what is going on. And so, you know, when that happened, it was like, you know, people were like, were you angry? Were you, you know, and it was really a mixed bag because no, I don't think it took that to damage a business, but I also don't think it was personal. And that was kind of hard not to take it personal. Like, why my business? It was just the magnitude of what all was going on, and it just got to this heightened point. So it was a mirage of emotions to walk into. And you know, when you build a business for me is like a baby, a piece of property or anything like that that I do is like a gift. And so you put a lot into it, making sure it's perfect, making sure everything's right, and you invest a lot of blood, sweat, tears into a business. And you know, and when it's just like bam, where it seemingly just overnight, you know, destroyed like that. And then you couple that with a business that was already shut down for COVID-19 for almost 3 months, you know, so all of that comes together and it's like this storm that you're like you could not even imagine, you know, being in. Yeah.
Wow, wow. So that's yeah, that's very interesting. I know we're gonna bring you on in a second, Mike. Let me put you on hold. We're gonna bring Mr. Roberts in real in a second. Definitely excited about having these two amazing gentlemen on the show.
Super excited.
So, thing I want to do is I want to show this brief clip of the damage that took place at the business because there is a GoFundMe campaign that has been
Mhm.
started
Yeah.
because Sonya is very popular around the world with real estate and people actually want to help, but we also want to help other business owners too.
Yeah.
So we'll tell you more about that during the show. But let's play this quick clip so we can bring our guests in.
Okay.
So we're going to share the screen and play a quick clip that we have here of you know what took place during the riots down here, the damage that was done. Okay. So what you're seeing now is actually the business and the damage that was done, which was posted on uh, the Instagram page, and you actually had to write Black business on the outside of the business so you can let people know that this is a Black-owned business.
Yeah, that felt you know, necessary, and it also felt prideful, but it also felt weird that you had to kind of stake a claim and really hope that people didn't come back and that they, you know, actually respect that fact of Black owned. And I believe that that's why some of the GoFundMe campaigns and the outcry has been so real because, you know, real because I don't think that anybody intended to harm Black businesses, you know, and I don't know, I'm not speaking that they intended to damage anything. I'm not condoning it one way or the other, but I think it was the casualty that a lot of people really felt, that the small number of business owners that are even in some of these areas where the rioting or protesting were going on, that they really needed, you know, some assistance, that they really kind of got caught up in the crossfire of other points that were trying to be proven. And so people have really begun to come to the aid, just understanding that it takes a lot to operate a business. And when you're set back multiple times, you know, that's when businesses close. And, you know, I really feel that that particular business that I own, like my businesses are always around other people. That particular business provided a haven for other entrepreneurs, and where they could co-work and build their business and, you know, do business out of that location. And so it wasn't just me as the business owner being impacted, it also impacted so many other people. And so now, as we're trying to put the space back together even faster, because the need is even greater to have entrepreneurs have a place where they can produce content, they can, you know, showcase and sell out of, that it gives them that area too. So the sooner we get, you know, that location back up and running, it really, I believe, will help even further the work that it started to do. Will be able to impact, you know, just an amazing impact because of some of the things that we're doing. And they can read more about it on the GoFundMe campaign, about, you know, how we're looking to really help that, use that building to help bridge the digital divide that we have when it comes to selling and entrepreneurs and everything. So
Awesome. So definitely visit the GoFundMe page, as well as visit Sonia's IG page. You can learn, find more.
Sonia Booker, yeah.
Okay, so let's get these fabulous guests in. We have two gentlemen waiting here. Let's see. We have Dr. Mike Roberts.
Dr. Mike Roberts.
And we also have, I'm asking that you share the video or just receive the invitation. How you doing, Dr. Roberts?
Feeling very, very rested. You know, staying inside this much is a challenge to, you know, both run your business and grow your business, and trying to be innovative and at the same time, you know, trying to wrestle with, you know, the health issues that so many of our friends are experiencing. So it's an interesting challenge.
Yeah, we also have Carrie Lampkins. So how you doing today, Carrie? Thanks for joining us.
I'm blessed. Thanks for having me.
Good.
To be on the panel.
Good. So today we're talking about real estate, you know, own or be owned, the importance of possessing the land, as well as Dr. Roberts is going to share with us digital real estate, the blockchain, you know, the importance of getting involved with that as well. So we have digital real estate as well as tangible real estate. So if you can, Dr. Roberts, give us a brief introduction. I know I have a video cue where you were featured on CNN. So I definitely want to play that, you and your brother. And definitely want to play that. But give us a quick intro of who Dr. Mike Roberts is and what makes you so amazing.
Well, first of all, I'm a St. Louisan, and I'm a guy who went to public schools. Came up with a family that my daddy worked at the post office. My mom taught school, and I guess the easiest way to say it is we weren't rich, we weren't poor, we just never had any money. So, you know, I worked my way through college and then on to law school and studied what I would consider to be white folks. What do I mean by that? Because most of the miseducation we get as Black folks leads us to believe that we don't have any role in history. We don't have any role in the economics development of our nation. And so learning what they perceived as being their world and us knowing our world put us at an advantage, I think. But we have to understand, you know, things like I studied in Europe, mythological conventions and literature before the 17th century. And I learned more about their culture than they know about their own culture. I say that in a sense because as we develop and grow into understanding things like the corporate language, you don't just go to college and understand the corporate language per se. That's usually taught by the rich uncle that sits at the dinner table once a week with your family, and you guys can discuss business deals and what's going on out here in the community and where the opportunities are. I've taken my 4 kids and I've moved them in a completely different direction than most Black kids. Not only did they go to Morehouse and Spelman, USC, and Pepperdine, they all graduated from law school as well. And they don't have jobs. They work within the family company or they have their own businesses. And so I think part of the respect that we have to have for each other is, how are we taking care of our kids and how are we getting them positioned, to function within this community that we live. And it's a challenge. I mean, it's not an easy thing. And it's even more of a challenge now in one way. But as you mentioned earlier, I've written 2 books, Action Has No Season and Action Has No Season 2.0. In my second book, I did a complete chapter on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and robotics, and one on the blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So as you discuss the question of real estate ownership and what is digital real estate ownership, what is intellectual property, how do you protect your identity within that world? These are the challenges that we have to embrace, understand, and then turn around and teach our young people to be prepared to look at this world differently. For example, if you have a 2-year-old today, I spoke to a group of high school students in White Plains, New York, about 5 months ago now. I was flying, about 300 of them. And I said to them, if you have a brother or sister who's 1 or 2 years old, and here you are close to 16 or 17, you know how to drive. I said, however, by the time they get to your age, they won't understand driving a car.
Right.
Because they will command the car.
Mm-hmm.
It will be a different world, and it's moving very, very rapidly. So the question is, how do we develop our piece of the action, so to speak? We can do that by first realizing that the concept of currency as we know it is going to change and will become more global. Let's go back in history for a moment. The first concept.
Dr. Roberts, I don't mean to cut you off. I want to bring Kerry in, and then we're going to get into blockchain, because I know you're about to get into blockchain. I just want to introduce Kerry and then play the video. Then we definitely want to get into the blockchain.
Sure.
So give us an introduction, Kerry, what makes you so great and amazing. I know you're hailing out of Detroit as well.
Yes, sir. So I'm a young entrepreneur. One of the things that I love teaching on is generational wealth. And I didn't grow up, I didn't have people around me at the time to teach me these things. So when I began to get around mentors, I began to learn things on how they became successful. So I began to study them and their lifestyle, begin to pick their brains. And, and that's what made me become who I am today, is by having a great mentor. I was always told to me that you become who you be around. So you're likely to become who you're around. So I made sure that I surround myself with, people that where I wanted to go. I wanted to surround myself around those individuals. So that's a little bit about me. I'm young and I'm married. I have 4 beautiful children. I have a beautiful wife. My wife is my backbone. Like she's there to help me keep me on track. When I get distracted, she's like, focus. So you definitely have to have that support. So I shout out to my wife, Crystal Lampkin, too, because she's a big supporter.
Awesome. So I want to play this video. It's about a minute long, the CNN clip, to kind of give some background on the great accomplishments that Dr. Robert and his brother have accomplished in St. Louis and throughout the world. I mean, owning real estate in various cities
Wow.
various countries as well. So, you know, we definitely, when we have giants and people who have accomplished as much as they have in this lifespan, we definitely want to show the magnitude of it. This was a clip that was featured on CNN, and so people can really see, you know, what they've done. You know, so let me share the screen real quick, and we will go to that clip.
Hey, Rick, I believe there's no audio to this.
Right. There's no audio.
Hey, Rick, I believe there's no audio. Yeah.
Did you got it? You gotta restart it?
I don't think he can hear us.
I was texting him.
Oh.
Did something happen with the video?
Yeah, no audio.
No audio.
The audio?
There was no audio.
Sure, what happened with that? Oh, okay. Well, let me see what happened with it. But I want Mr. Roberts to go into how, first of all, how you and your brother amassed the wealth that you guys have, and where do you see real estate and digital real estate going right now as a result of things that have happened with the coronavirus, with the protests, with the riot?
Well, let's be clear. We have personal property or real estate property, right?
Mm-hmm.
Real estate property would be the buildings and the homes and the office strips and strip centers and things along that line, all of which I've owned. We built strip shopping centers. We built towers to house offices and residential. One time we owned 3 city blocks in downtown St. Louis. I'm currently at my hotel in Detroit, for example, looking at one of the strategies as to the reopening of the hotel. Is it best to reopen it? Is the best use to keep it a hotel in Detroit? Or is it perhaps we have to make a pivot, and I have to look at being a little more innovative and potentially convert it into a residential facility that would straight line the income. It would be a lesser amount, but it would at the same time be a lot more reliable and probably avoid things like a pandemic, both economic pandemic as well as a health pandemic. I mean, today we have basically 3 pandemics going on. You know, we have the virus pandemic, we have the economic downturn pandemic. And of course, we have the racism pandemic that is clearly before the people of the world. So when these kind of things hit you, you have to, as business people, we have to look at, okay, where's our pivot? What's our next move? How do we, protect the assets that we have, and then potentially come out ahead before it's over. So on the real estate side, there are plenty of deals that are going to be coming available. I'm sure there are plenty of folks who had huge mortgages that, for the last 3 or 4 or 5 months, they couldn't meet, or even those who had real estate where their tenants could not pay accordingly, and therefore they couldn't take care of some of the expenses that it takes for them to operate. So at the end of the day, I think we have to really peel back the onion and see what the next layer is in advance somehow. We have to be more futuristic thinking. I like the idea of looking at what you're defining as digital real estate, or some kind of capability that you have that's unique. Let's face it, I predict in the next 15 years, jobs as we know it will all be, 50% will be gone and 50% of the people will be unemployed. If you have a job that is repetitive in nature, you can expect robotics to take over that job. The analytics of how to work in an environment that is a lot more both digital and without the human touch. If the human can touch it now and a robot can touch it instead, we're going to see those changes taking place. About half of the, as I said, over half of the jobs as we know it today will be gone. So what does that mean? That means as a futurist, we should look at what are the business opportunities that will be coming along. So intellectual property, or what you're calling digital property, is something that we have to investigate and see how we can grow. Because as the future shifts and these types of businesses change, other business and other opportunities open up. I mean, if we go back to when people were picking cotton and the cotton gin came along, it put people out of work.
Right.
What did they do? They came to the north, to the industrial side of the world, where the agribusiness world was shifting to the industrial business type of world, and they moved into those types of jobs. They came to places like St. Louis and Detroit, where they had auto dealerships. So, not dealerships, I'm sorry, manufacturing facilities. So people left one type of business job, if you will, and they went into another one. So now what's happening is we're seeing this mega change that's starting to take place. And we as Black folks need to really take advantage of this, because we've always been some of the more creative and resourceful people and entrepreneurial people. What we have to do now is assume that the playing field is beginning to level out as a result of some of these pandemics.
Right.
And let's see what we can do.
Yeah. Now, Carrie, I know you speak of possessing the land and leaving generational wealth. Dr. Roberts just spoke about the digital wealth and where that's going. How do we couple those two with the tangible real estate and marry those two so that now you can have digital wealth or digital property as well as real estate?
That's something I'm looking to get into, is that digital. That's why I love what he's saying. We're gonna have to definitely talk. But yeah, man, I'm real big on generational wealth, because you look at God in the Bible talks even about it, like a good man leaves an inheritance for his children. So I'm thinking about the future. I'm thinking about my sons, my daughters. I'm thinking about how I want them to take on the legacy. I'm doing the legacy. I want them to keep it moving and leave something for them. And I'm thinking people of our color, they don't have, I don't blame them, because they don't have people to teach that to them. So I want to be one of those leaders that step up and, hey, here's courses I have for you. Give some free courses. I'll do some free webinars. And then also what like right now, what I'm doing is a digital, not a digital, I'm doing with my course, I'm actually giving away a piece of land, piece of property, piece of the earth. And then also, and this is an incentive that I'm giving them for taking the course, the things they've learned from my course. so that way they can take what they've learned and they can apply it, and then they be able to build that generational wealth, you know. So I want to lead by example. I don't want to just tell them. I want to show them. I want to show them and demonstrate it. So, but I think that we merge those together, man. It'll be a game changer. It'll be a game changer for economic empowerment. I mean, just seeing young men and women owning something. I think that's a solution right there. That's a solution right there when you empower them and teach them, and reach one, teach one. And then they'll be able to take that knowledge that they learned and teach it to someone else.
Mm-hmm. Now, Sonia, I know you really, you're big on ownership in terms of like your business or your practice. I know you have a story that you shared where you encourage your doctor to own real estate, you know, to buy the building. Speak a little bit about that.
I think that as business owners and entrepreneurships, and you know, first I really want to dive into Dr. Roberts. I mean, he's dropping some nuggets that like you just can't even buy, you know. On this platform. So definitely want to dive into that a little more, because a business is just one part of your of the business and the wealth building that you're starting, but your top expenses are always going to be from your overhead, your people, and your property. So the more of that you can own of that system, because you're going to have somewhere to operate out of. So what I did, you know, being a big proponent of owning the building that you also, you know, do your business out of, so that now with my doctor, the story that you're referring to is, you know, going to the doctor, you know, year after year, and just finally, you know, asking my doctor every year, like, Doc, when are you going to buy your building? And finally, you know, 3 or 4 years went by, and she said, tell me a little more about it. But she did ended up buying a building and now renting to other doctors in her spaces, you know, free. And she makes so much money off of the real estate and not so much off of the practice. And so when she brought that element into her business model, it changed the game completely. And so, you know, those are the ways that we have to be looking, you know, at the real estate and looking at our businesses. And I think, you know, what's so important with Dr. Roberts, you know, I'm looking at like the level in which you innovate at, and the futuristic aspect that your mind operate at. Because when you talk about AI and artificial intelligence and jobs being lost, the world moves so much faster than we do in the United States. And I think a lot of people don't really realize that the things that you're talking about now have really started and implementing in other countries and places in a far impactful way. And I think it's going to catch us, especially Black people, off guard when it really begins to happen. Dr. Roberts, talk a little bit about how do you stay futuristic? Like how do you really stay on that cutting edge like that?
That's a great question. Obviously, reading is important. Listening to having associates who are in that space, who are engineers, if you will. We have discussions that lead to, well, what if this and what if that? And I'll tell you another place that you can actually go on the internet. The data's all over. You can go to TED Talks. I mean, even if you just type in, you know, futuristic thinking or blockchain or cryptocurrency, and let some of the other folks, and there are many of them around the world, who are opening up that information to you. And now it's not a do-it-yourself kit, of course. It gives you a broad perspective and something to think about. Then it becomes your responsibility to connect the dots and make the most of it. For example, with me, I own TV stations. The FCC indicated they were going to go from analog to digital. I said, oh boy, okay, and how are we going to pay for that, and so on and so forth. So we looked at it. By that time, I had bought 12 full-power television stations, 12. We're the largest, and probably always will be the largest Black-owned TV station group. But then I recognized that they were about to issue licenses for digital phone companies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Back in the day when the coolest person in the neighborhood or in a theater was a guy that had a big analog phone in a briefcase, you know,
Right.
the snap, crackle, drop phone, you know, was pretty noisy. At any rate, then digital was coming. So I saw digital coming the way I saw it coming to TV. So I jumped into that world, and I built the only Black-owned wireless phone company, took it public, and then sold it to Sprint for $300 million. So when you look at how do you go from step to step in the business world, I write about this in my books. You know, it's like planting seeds. You might have multiple businesses, multiple ideas, but you plant the seeds because everything is not going to grow at the same time. So whereas I'm building a shopping center over here and buying a TV station over there and building, you know, another company like the wireless phone company at the same time, they all have different phases of need. So the best way to do it is just to apply yourself, find out what you're going to sell, and then be prepared. Like when the 2008 recession started to hit,
Right.
how are we going to respond to that? You know, how do you respond to being forced to sell your properties because the banks are going upside down, and they're going to put that on your shoulders to sell, and you might have to sell at a discount because of the economy.
Right.
And so you have to figure out, well, let's strategize on that. You know, what can we sell? What can we hold? What do we need to do to survive? What area of our businesses? That's why being diversified is so important to you. Yeah. You know, what is it that we're going to hold on to? What can we hold on to? And use as a basis for us to grow the next step. Yeah. Philosophically, I say this frequently. If I gave you an apple, you can open it and count the number of seeds in that apple, right? You can count the number of seeds in that apple, but you can never count the number of apples that will come from one seed.
That's right.
That's good.
I like that.
And the amount of time, over time. That one seed, those seeds just keep producing. So, exactly. So Carrie, in your what you're doing, you know, one of the things that I do, your platform, like you talk a lot about mentors, and with Dr. Roberts, he's someone who, you know, I've followed, you know, all my career, and just you know, kudos and thank you for being such a giant and such a leader, Dr. Roberts. I first encountered you and met you at a Black hotel owners conference in Atlanta, and was very, you know, my mentor was the late Herman J. Russell, Sr., and he was my mentor for 12 years. That introduced me to the hotel business, multi-family, commercial, you know, those type of things. And you were always someone, you know, really, you know, leading the charge in that. So for that, I thank you, you know, as a real estate person, as a business owner, because like you say, it's being multifaceted, and it's being, you know, multiple streams of income. So, you know, what you've done in media, what you've done in hotels, what you've done in construction, what you've done, you know, it's just, you know, so I'm fanning out today. You know, I'm always like, it's only certain people that, you know, for me, so
this is your Michael Jackson, huh?
Right, you know.
So Michael Jackson is Michael Roberts.
Because I know how hard it is, and like you say, even when you encounter, you can have all the information in the world, but the idea that you execute on it, you write about it, you pull people along with it. People watch TED Talks till the cows come home, you know, an information overload, but you put it in practice, you see it, it makes sense, you can adjust your mind to it, and you go after it, and that makes all the difference, you know, in the world.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Carrie, and so like when you talk about mentors, sometimes the mentors are silent, like, you know, me following, you know, the Roberts brothers, and, you know, me having an up close and personal, you know, Herman Russell, but there are a lot of people. So when you look at what you're doing in your sphere, you talk a lot about the importance of mentorship. How do you navigate that as a young entrepreneur and investor, real estate entrepreneur?
Man, like I said, a mentor is very important in my life because they've been there. Like, they have the experience. So it's like a shortcut in a way because you don't have to bump your head a few times to then get your lesson. Because I did that before, where I always talk about don't be a know-it-all, be a learn-it-all. Like, learn it all. Even if you may know it, that person that had the experience has that can, get you there faster. So I always have a mindset of like, all right, I don't know everything, but I want to learn it. I want to learn as much as I can about this thing. So that's where I come. It's about my mindset. Your mindset has to change. And then once you change your mindset, you'll learn so much. And like I said, my mentor, he's also quiet sometimes. So he don't tell me a lot, but what I do is I study the way he moves. When I'm in certain business deals with him, when he's negotiating, I'm like, oh, I like that. I like the way he did that. Or even if I have a question or I'm confused, one thing you can't be scared of is asking questions.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I struggled with back when I was in school, was not looking stupid. Was that a stupid question?
Feeling like, yeah.
Yeah. But I learned to not feel that way. Like, hey, speak up. And if I'm confused about something, he's going to be glad to tell me. He's my mentor. He's going to be glad to tell me, and maybe more. So listening to your guys, but not being a know-it-all, but be a learn-it-all will get you far.
Yeah.
I love it. Now, Dr. Roberts, blockchain, what would you tell your mentee about owning the real estate of blockchain now? And what are some opportunities in that sphere?
Okay, let's make sure we understand what is a blockchain. Blockchain is basically a method by which data is gathered on one individual item, right? So it's like a ledger sheet. So let's assume that you have a baby that's born and they start a blockchain on that child. If that child goes to a certain school or has certain medical ailments, as they grow up, this data continues to build inside of a blockchain. Same thing with a building. If you buy a building that's already in the blockchain, it'll give you information about the building from the origin of the property all the way up. So if you wanted to buy something, say in Singapore today, you wouldn't need to go to a realtor. You could go to the blockchain and connect the address and know that it's trusted data. And what makes it trusted data? The fact that there are several thousand computers holding that same data. So therefore it becomes immutable. If somebody tries to hack it, if that one little element that say describes some work that was done on it or a transaction that took place on it, all the other computers would immediately fill it right back up again. So therefore, as we look into the future, pretty much everything and everyone will have a blockchain connected to them in the future. So now the question becomes, how do I make money on that? First of all, when buying that property in Singapore, I may want to have that peer-to-peer experience with the person I'm buying it from. And I want him to do a transaction, hence cryptocurrency. So if you're prepared to take my Bitcoin at the value of the Bitcoins that I own for the value of the property you have, I just need you to show me your wallet, which is your phone. I can transfer the money to you. You can transfer the data to me. It can lock into the blockchain. Now, what has just happened? What has just happened, Rick? We just eliminated lawyers, bankers, real estate brokers, and all those middle people that are in the middle. That's what blockchain is going to do. It's going to drive a lot of traditional middle people out of business, and at the same time be able to give you a high degree of comfort that your transaction is a solid, legitimate transaction.
And
now, so that means that, so that means that, think of this, every city hall in the world will need to be taught how to handle the blockchain. Every military force will be required to do it. So let's assume that you go and apply to become a Marine, and they enter you into a blockchain position. So now every data part that they follow about you is now inside. And let's assume you have diabetes, and you know, all of a sudden you had some kind of attack and you're at stationed in Germany. They'll be able to pull down that data immediately, probably right inside of an ambulance, and be able to diagnose you, evaluate who you are, because by that time you'll have nanochips in your body that'll be able to sense the type of health condition you're in, or that nanochip might be in your brain, providing you with virtual reality capabilities and infinite knowledge. You know, the cell phones that we have today has more data capability than what NASA had when it sent a man to the moon. Now imagine a chip becoming so small that it can actually go into your brain and provide you with infinite knowledge. Imagine
hold on. You just lost me on that one. So you're saying, so this is why we have to have these giant of man ground to share information. I hope you have your pen and taking notes, because it's not every day that you get, you know, a man of this stature to dialogue with and share information with. So you're saying that they're going to be able to implant a chip into your brain. It's going to enhance your knowledge, I would say.
Yes. You become a cyborg. And the question becomes, what part of you is robotic and what part of you is human? You know, your frontal lobe is always going to be human because that's your creative side. Robots can't be creative per se. They can only they can emulate or imitate, but they cannot actually create they can't paint a picture. They can copy it, but they can't be creative.
Yeah.
They can't show love or hate, for example. But let me just finish that one point, because I think it deserves a little more attention. There was a experiment with a rat where they took this chip that had a memory capability from the brain, and they ran this rat through a maze. Eventually, it made its way repeatedly through the correct way to do it to get to its reward. They then took that data chip and sent it across the country, placed it in another rat, gave it the same path, gave it the same type of facility to walk through, maze, and it went exactly the correct way. So the data transferred into the brain from the other one.
On the first try?
I'm sorry? On the first try, yeah. No. The data had moved right into that brain and gave it a path by which to work without going through and missing the wrong thing. Now, that's true. This really happened. Now, mind you, what will happen in the future is, you know how we have these virtual reality glasses right now, where you can think that you're somewhere else?
Yeah.
Well, all they're doing now is starting to train you to be able to do this with the blink of an eye. So if you download data into your brain through these chips, and these chips will be about the size of a coffee grain, or they're going to put a chip right here, and that chip is going to be able to tell things like temperature, heart rate, and so on and so forth. And you may have chips that will be able to go on your mirror. So someday you'll be able to look at your mirror and say, mirror, mirror on the wall, what's wrong with me today? You'll do a diagnostic. And then the mirror, the chips from that will send a message to RoboDoc. RoboDoc will do the medical evaluation. RoboDoc will then send to the RoboPharmacy. The RoboPharmacist will then pull the medicine prescribed for you. They will then call the local drone company, who will pick up the medicine and deliver it to your house. And then your own robotic will probably pick it up at the door, bring you a glass of water, and you take your medicine.
Wow. So in all of that, where are the opportunities?
Well, that's where you have
if you're deleting humans out of the equation from manual labor, you know, where are the opportunities? Is it in the creative space? Because robots can't create. So are the opportunities in the creative space? Because, you know, as blockchain being the real estate, information going into this digital real estate, now there have to be opportunities so that we can then make money and have a livelihood.
Well, who's going to build all of these? Who's going to repair them? who's going to create the next level of programming globally, not just in your backyard, but I mean globally, 7 billion people all needing to have access to similar type of capabilities. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's going to be such a major change in the next 20 years or so. Like I said, but there's going to be folks, there are certain jobs that people will still require a human to take care of, you know, personal care from time to time, forms of entertainment. Um, there will be an emerging new and advanced type of opportunities, but we have to be on the cutting edge, and we have to start looking at it. Let's face it, if you look at how they printed money and gave it to people all over the country, that's fiat money. That's fake money. You know, it's a piece of paper. I mean, we've assigned value to it. We've assigned value to before that, the heavy value was assigned to rocks, well, or minerals. They call it gold and silver, but basically they were just rocks in the ground. And before that, it was if I had a harvest of corn and you had chickens, that was our currency. I would exchange and barter our currencies. So currencies are changing, and that's where the cryptocurrency concept is. The Bitcoin is one, but there's thousands of cryptocurrencies, and the question becomes which ones are going to be the most credible and acceptable between two parties.
Yeah.
But that's also a global question, because the value of my Bitcoin today is say at $9,000. Well, that same $9,000 value is the same in China and India, in Pakistan and Ghana.
Levels, yeah.
It has the same value. Now, a Ghanaian CD, their money, doesn't have the same face value necessarily as a USD, right? And 70% of people in the world base their valuation on our money, but our money is even fake. So someday we're going to, you follow me? I mean, so someday in the future,
imagine that, right?
There's going to be a shift. It's something that everybody can eventually accept and consider as their accepted form of currency.
Man, so this
before we go to talk to Carrie a little more, can we find this level of information in your book, Action?
Action has no season.
I'm sorry?
Action has no season.
Action has no season. Can we find that, especially in the 2.0, but we need to read both and then read 2.0? And then I'm going to employ everyone to start studying up on blockchain and cryptocurrency, really, really taking a deep dive into the future, you know, because it's coming. And Dr. Roberts' prediction, 20 years, you know, 15, 20 years, it's a whole new world. And before we close, I want to ask Dr. Roberts how he feels about it. We can come back to this question. How does he feel like all the global pandemics is helping to push all this even further, faster, and if it is? And so Carrie, as we round out, how are you innovating, and how are you thinking in terms of, as I call them, humanoids, you know, in the business? I think in real estate, from smart contracts to, you know, how we do titles, how we do closings, you know, how we manage property, all that goes on the blockchain now. I mean, so to me, I feel like a lot of real estate investors could really innovate, be at the forefront of innovating this process, because it's far, but it's still on the tip, and I think it's a great time.
Yeah, it's very a great time. I'm invested in cryptocurrency as well. I came in on it when it dropped down to around 3,000, 4,000. And now look at it, it's worth at 9,000 of Bitcoin, and also got a couple of other coins as well. But one of the things that I've started being creative is I created like a real estate trust, an investment trust, where it's online. People it'll have all the performer, it'll have all the details on it and everything. They can buy shares as low as like $500. So I want to give everybody the opportunity to invest. And then I got to get with my attorney. They're working on it right now, where I want to be able to include that like cryptocurrency as a form of payment as well, where it won't just be through their card, a credit card, or debit, whatever. Actually, I would love to accept, the cryptocurrency in that. So that's something we're working on. I love being creative. Even when I structure deals in real estate, like every deal is not the same. I'm always finding ways to be creative on how we both can walk away from the deal happy. So especially during this time, I'm even more creative. I didn't know I had that much ideas until this time hit. So a lot more.
Deal with it, yeah.
Yeah, like to be honest with you, I have closed more deals during the pandemic
Mm-hmm.
before. Like I'm serious, like because the creativity that I was coming up with on how to make it happen, and even with things being closed, I was able to close deals with money being in the escrow, or have an exception somewhere we write in the purchase agreement where they'll take it as is, where it is. So yeah, creativity is so important, and just make it happen.
And what's your website? How can people get connected with everything you have going on?
Okay, my website is my first and last name, CarrieLampkin.com. You have episodes of me possessing the land, and I started possessing the land, so is to inspire others to get out here and possess the land as well. So I didn't really think of it as being a show or anything like that until it was being very interesting. People was like, man, I started posting on social media, and people. Yeah. I got one video that had like 1.4 million views. Yeah. Like within like a couple of days.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, you can follow me on my social media as well. Carrie Lampkin. Everything is Carrie Lampkin, at Carrie Lampkin. And then my website is Carrie Lampkin.
Okay, we're gonna give you a follow.
Yeah.
Dr. Roberts,
can you round this out? Do you think that the global pandemics, the 3 pandemics that we're in, do you think that is pushing us forward, pushing us to where we need to be?
Well, the question becomes, can we take advantage of the opportunities? I think the reason he closed on so many deals is because people sense that there are opportunistic moves to be made at this time. We've all received, for example, the $1,200 that the government decided that they would give. Well, interestingly enough, if you look at the fact that there's about 40 million African Americans in the United States, if only say half, 20 million, had decided that they would consolidate their money into one effort, suddenly you'd have what's the number? I think $20 billion or somewhere in that range. $billion. Now, that is an interesting scenario. That's almost a wealth shift.
Yes.
Had there been the real commitment to do it.
I love that.
I basically gave people 4 ideas when you got the $1,200 or any other money. I think the first thing you should do is pay off any credit cards you have. And the reason I say that is because the credit cards will bite you in the end when you're at 18, 20, and 26% interest. If you pay off your credit card, you can still use it as you can with cash. But I think protecting your back end is something people don't think about very much. They'll create the credit, they'll let it sit there instead of paying it off. And when you have this extra found money, it's best to do that. Again, because you can still use the credit card at the grocery store, or you can use the cash at the grocery store. But I think you'll have a tendency not to use the credit card as much once you pay it off. The other would be looking at real estate, as was described earlier. I think that's a very important play, hard real estate. I think looking at Bitcoins in terms of cryptocurrency is the third one. And then the fourth one is actually the stock market. I think that, we need to look at how do we play in the market. And we have to be careful because people think that they can just jump in and buy stuff because they see it on TV.
Right.
My comparison would be this. Let's assume that you play tennis or you play basketball. Because you play basketball doesn't mean you can play in the NBA. You follow me? Because you know a little bit about stocks doesn't mean that you'd be smart enough to really understand and play in the stock market. So therefore, you should make sure that you are being advised by someone who does understand what to do. And my suggestion, for example, would be to buy stocks where there's a good management team who can fight through the downturns, And generally, those are companies that pay dividends.
Mhm.
Wow.
So those would be the four directions in conclusion that I would toss out for people during this time of challenge.
Man.
And how do we follow you, Dr. Roberts, besides, getting copies of your book, Action Has No Season, right away in our lives? How else can we connect with you and your greatness?
Well, I wrote those books because those are my way of mentoring people. You see, because when I give speeches all over the country, and as you know, I'm also a developer in other parts of the world, and recently was made a chief in Sierra Leone and a crown king in Ghana for economic development last December.
Congratulations on that. I remember that.
Yes, thank you. You will address me now as His Excellency.
Okay.
Or you could just call me Nene, N-E.
Nana?
Yeah, right.
I'm not a Quasi now. You're not a what?
I'm sorry?
I say I'm not a Quasi. Not a Quasi is born on Sunday.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. That's right. I am too. I was born.
Okay, you're not a Quasi too. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember having that conversation with you though.
They gave me an actual new name as well. So it's interesting because you go there in 2019, 400 years after in of course 1619 is when the first slaves hit Americas, and that's 400 years ago. So we're in 401 years now. Yeah. And many of us went to Ghana and other places. In my case, Sierra Leone as well. Because I did a heritage check to find out my tribal background. And I'm a part of the Mende tribe, which is out of Sierra Leone. And when I went back, they were so pleased for me to come, they actually made me what they call a paramount king, a paramount chief. I have to make the distinction because in Ghana, they defined us as a king, and over there, it's still a chief. But that's a whole dialogue of interest. People need to know that before England and the others came to Africa, everybody was a king. The leaderships used that term, the king. And the people from England said, no, there's only one king, it's the King of England. From now on, you have to call yourself chiefs. So part of regaining the origin of the term is being applied now. That's a little bit of trivia, but it's important because those of us in diaspora absolutely should be looking at the opportunities that are existing in our motherland, Africa, where there's all the resources that the world is pulling from there, gold, diamonds, bauxite, you name it, all the natural materials. And we have a huge population. So as that population gets a little more educated, I think we're going to see industry that moves from here to Japan, to China, down to India to some degree. Eventually, cheap labor will move into Africa. And I think we'll see a ton of companies, including the Chinese, who are busy spending money and buying up Africa, are coming there. And at the end of the day, the Chinese are in it for the Chinese, but there will be, some benefits. Fortunately, many of the leaders that are now in Africa, presidents, were studied in Europe, in the United States or in Europe. So they have a more Western society mentality, and they're trying to get the people within their countries to think a little differently and kind of eliminate somewhat of the slave mentality, really is what it amounts to, are thinking that, Europeans, ice is colder. So we have some challenges, but, in addition to this real estate move and our discussions, we can do that not just here, but we always talk about things globally. That means that we can invest globally as well and take it. Like I'm one of the largest, if not the largest, Black developer in the Bahamas. And, I found that to be an appreciating property, which is good. It's also a nice place to hang out.
Oh yeah, we gotta invite them to the New Year's Eve party in Bahamas. Dr. Roberts does this amazing New Year's Eve party at his castle in the Bahamas. I mean,
yes.
I went the year before last. I didn't make it last year. There was a lot going on last year, but I'm definitely, if you're having it 2021, Well, with the COVID-19, if you have it in 2021, I'm definitely there. Yeah. So, so I mean, this has been a great show, man. You guys have shared, wealth of information. It's like the mentor and the mentee, sharing information and really, focusing on where the opportunities are and what to focus on. So, in closing, I know we've gone over a little bit, but I just want to, Dr. Roberts, just get a tidbit of where should we be focusing our attention now during this pandemic, during the riots, because there's a lot of chaos going on to kind of distract you, but where should we be focusing our attention for the opportunities? I mean, you totally blew my mind with the chip, being able to program your mind and give you all of this, so where should we be focusing our attention on?
Well, truly, you should focus your attention on your health. Okay, and make sure that you're not taking this whole COVID-19 as just sort of a joke, or it's not going to happen to me type attitude. We see it's happening at all ages and disproportionately amongst Black folks. So that would be my first suggestion. As it relates to the direction on the issue of racism and how that's going to play, I think there's going to be a lot of guilt money out there, guilt opportunities by white folks. But I think we have to change the narrative. A lot of white folks are still scared of terms like racism and being called a racist. I think if we, since the dude up in the White House held a Bible upside down, I think what we can do is this. I think we should start to not say racism is racism. I think we should say the behavior of racism is a sin. Yeah. Listen to me carefully now. Because if we start to say it's a sin to shoot anyone by police, or it's a sin to redline, or it's a sin to do anything that is traditionally what we've been calling racist, I think we should start to use it. Now, what will that do? That's going to reverse, that'll be a reverse mentality issue that will lay out in the minds of white folks that, oh, this isn't racist, this is just a sin against your beliefs. And if you kind of play into that concept, I believe a lot of them will react quite differently. Because they can't understand what to do to fix racism, but they should be able to understand what to do to fix a sin.
That's good. That's good. Change the narrative. Change the narrative of that. I wrote that nugget down. That has been just so many nuggets, so many notes that I have like a full note taking here. And
oh yeah, I got my notebook too.
So if you weren't listening, you need to go back and listen, share this video, like and share this video. Amazing, amazing information to prepare us for today and beyond. Our guests have been just amazing. In closing, my thoughts are just, connect with me at soniabooker.com. I have a book, Real Estate and Wealth, Investing in the American Dream. It's definitely something you need to start preparing your mind and getting involved, because there are going to be a lot of opportunities. And in this season, we all have to be investors, because even our brothers and sisters are going to be losing properties due to job losses and things of that nature. So we all have to have our senses up so that we could even figure out how to help them out of crisis. And so all eyes open, get the knowledge, do a lot of work over this weekend and get yourself in position and preparation to possess the land. And Rick, without further ado, it's on you to get out of here.
Definitely. So in closing, I definitely want to thank you to Bright Minds, gentlemen, for coming and sharing such amazing information, such thought-provoking information. Definitely sparked some things in my brain. As well as co-host here, Sonia Booker. She and I will be doing some amazing things in terms of helping businesses that have been affected by the coronavirus, that have been affected by the riots, the looting, in the different cities. So definitely support the GoFundMe campaign. And you can find that on I Am Sonia Booker on Instagram, on Facebook. I think that, as well as on my page too. I think I posted one.
Yeah, we'll drop it in this link as well on the rolling out on this live link.
Yeah. So in closing, it's very important that we own and possess the land.
Yes.
You know, we have to own and possess the land because that's where the fruit of the world comes from. Everything that is created on this planet comes from the land. So if you don't own a square piece of land, you need to figure out how to do that. But we're also going into another age now, the digital age, where you need to own a square piece of blockchain, which is another piece of IP, intellectual property. You know, you need to own that as well. So in closing, you know, the story with Ray Kroc, you know, one of the founders of McDonald's, he really didn't start making money as a company, as a business, until he got into real estate, until he owned the land, until he owned the business that McDonald's sits on. So you have to think about that. You also have to think about when this land was first taken over by the Indians. You know, they had the land, but then they had to go and purchase our ancestors in order to build the land. You know, and that's the reason this whole thing is about economics. You know, the racism, the slavery, it was all an economic play. So we have to put economics first, and we have to begin to move in that mantra. You know, when they went and got our ancestors, they went and got the best craftsmen. They went and got the best farmers. They went and got the best skillsmen to build America because it was a blank sheet. It was a blank sheet of land. So it was all economics. So in closing, that's what it's about. You know, we have to march now. Instead of civil rights, we need silver, S-I-L-V-E-R. That's what it's about.
And we got to get the information to make sure that we are on the cutting edge of this. We have to get the information, pick up these books and get information. There's a lack of information that we perish. Encouraging you all to expand your mind, use this time to innovate and create, because we're going to create our way out of this pandemic. That's the only way. So we have cracked the code. I think we cracked the code today. On the new code of wealth, because the things you did 60 days ago will no longer get you the same results. And so that's what this show is all about, the new code of wealth, and making sure that you're updating and changing and knowing what codes and how to pivot. You know, just as Dr. Roberts explained, we all have to do that in our businesses and our mental capacity to be able to operate in this new world and this new economy and this new system, and systems that we're going to create. A lot of these we're going to build. And so you need to be fresh and informed for the fight and for, you know, this next layer of where we're going. So happy to do that. And we'll be continuing a lot more conversation. And I am just heartfelt of appreciation for you sharing your time today.
I love it. So collaborate and create. The new code of wealth. Thank you. Shout out to Munson Steve and entire Rolling Out family.
Rolling Out. Thank you for
rolling out.
Absolutely.